While most MSPs are out there hunting endlessly for new clients, the smart ones know their richest opportunities lie in the fields they already own. My name's James Steele and this is Harvest, where MSPs and industry experts share proven ways to grow profitable revenue from your current customer base. No theory, no fluff, just field-tested strategies that work. Let's grow.
Most MSP business owners I speak to think, I love technology and I love helping people. That's the driver behind an MSP business owner more often than not. What is the driver behind your client? Partner for success, because the MSP industry is small, we should all work together and you can't deliver everything. The other thing that's really important with the opportunities board is knowing at what point are we losing momentum with the sale. At what point is there a delay in my sales cycle? If we can look at that, we can then start to say, what can we fix in our sales process? There's something's falling over. The myth that I'd like to dispel is you can only grow your business through new customer acquisition, and it's a load of rubbish.
Hey, and welcome back to Harvest. Today's episode focuses on Maria Armstrong, who's part of the PAXA Academy in the APAC region. And she's going to share how to properly structure your sales portfolio, understand what it is that drives your clients, and fix some common sales problems that are probably costing you money. She also drops a bombshell about growing your business that directly challenges conventional industry wisdom. So stay with us for actionable tactics as always, stuff you can use and implement in your business today to increase profitability without chasing new logos. Get that notepad ready. Let's dive straight in.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me again for this episode of Harvest. We've got a great one here today. I'm with Maria Armstrong, who not only has headed up one of the biggest communities, if not the biggest community, in the APAC region for MSPs, but is also now head of the PAXA Academy in the region. So Maria spends all of her time working with MSPs and helping them be more profitable. So she's been very kind in offering some time to talk to us today about some of the practical, tactical ways that we can help MSPs generate more revenue and be more successful with their existing client base. So Maria, one of the things that's been on my mind is how we work out what it is we should be selling. There's so much today that an MSP can do for products and services and things, and you're helping MSPs all the time with their portfolio. Where do you start talking to them? Where's the advice? Where are the best practices?
So my first question is always, what do you sell? Can you clearly define what you sell to your clients? And that's not just a marketing question, because we can have a pretty marketing brochure, but what do you sell? And scarily, the answer more often than not isn't clear. If you can't define what you sell clearly enough, then how are your clients supposed to understand it?
So this sounds like really basic advice, and it's simple, but it's amazing how many MSPs can't actually define what it is they sell. So make sure that you can list everything that you currently offer, look for those gaps, and then assess what skills you might need to deliver other things that your customers are getting from elsewhere. This clarity often reveals immediate revenue opportunities for existing clients, so it's absolutely a worthwhile exercise to do.
So some of the best performing MSPs then, what are some ideas around a good sort of portfolio setup and understanding what it is you sell?
So the first step is figure out what we sell today. Put it down, write it on paper, the old fashioned, put it on a spreadsheet, write down what you sell today, every single thing you sell.
Products and services. Like we talk about professional services here as well.
Absolutely. Products, services, everything you do sell, everything you could sell. Where are the gaps? Why aren't you selling them? And is that because you don't have the skills within your business? What would it take to upskill your team to sell those things, to deliver those services? If we're looking at a gap analysis there, is it simply, well, I need to send my engineer on that training course and then I can deliver that professional service? How much of a difference would that make financially to you if you could sell a particular service to every single one of your clients or 50% of your clients because you took an engineer and sent them on a 3-day training course? So these are all things that if you don't know exactly what you're selling and not selling today, you're not going to be able to do that forward planning to then go and sell it to your existing client base.
Help me understand that then. So that makes a lot of sense. We also talk a lot about the importance of being, focused on the things that really generate you the money. How do you whittle it down to what makes sense for the business and of course the customer base?
You need to know who your customers are. do we actually know the businesses? Do we know who we're selling to?
How do you do that? Because that sounds like a lovely concept. How do you dive deeper and actually understand how you start aligning services with that company?
So the first part would be segment them. Let's say that we look at it and we say, well, actually, some of our clients are making a lot more phone calls than we think. So they're costing us money because they're costing us a lot of time. They shouldn't be, because logistically, they should be the same as the other client who has the same number of staff. They're priced the same way. What's going on there? There's obviously an issue there. But if we don't know what we're selling and who we're selling to, we're not going to understand that there might be an issue in their business. And that's the first step, is ranking the clients just on paper. Are they profitable? Are they not profitable? We've segmented them based on vertical, based on size, and we've had a look at them. The next step's a little trickier, because we have to find out what drives the business owner, and we can't do that on paper.
So it's time for some human contact, essentially. I'm guessing here. This is the point at which you dive in and have a deeper conversation with them. So if I'm an MSP and that's not an area that I really excel at, what should I be doing to get down to the sort of the real understanding?
Most MSP business owners I speak to think, I love technology and I love helping people. That's the driver behind an MSP business owner more often than not. What is the driver behind your clients? The driver can't be money. The driver isn't money. So is their key business driver that they want to help people? Is it that they are problem solvers? Are they really risk averse? Are they really risk averse business owners? Because that's going to make a difference to how you position a new product as well. If you say, oh, I've got this great new product that's going to help you scale your business and grow your business and and they're really risk averse, that's not going to land very well.
I really like this. We talk a lot about the white space matrix and filling in the gaps and so on, but actually understanding client psychology is really key. If they're risk averse or growth focused, that has a big impact on how you talk to them about new products and services. So make sure that you're scheduling deeper conversations when you can, particularly with your top clients, to make sure you've got a good handle on their disposition, so to speak.
That's a fascinating area, isn't it? The whole mindset of your customers, because you're right. If you go in there with the wrong message, you're going to miss the mark completely.
I did a presentation last year to a room full of MSPs, and I said, raise your hand if you're a salesperson. And I think 3 people out of 100 put their hand up.
I'm shocked and stunned, Maria.
And I said to them, I'm not supposed to tell you you're wrong, but I'm going to do this right now. You're all wrong. As business owners, their job is to sell the concept of their business. As business owners, that is your job, to be constantly selling. Even if you're not salespeople, MSPs are problem solvers. And that's all this is. We're just asking questions to find out more information so we can solve a problem.
This is good. So I think we've really set the scene nicely then. So we're sort of understanding what we sell and who we sell it to. So do you have is there any examples of maybe companies that you've worked with perhaps that have done this particularly well that we could talk about? Is there any that I'm thinking maybe that have gone through that process of like, okay, what central revenue streams could I add to my portfolio?
Working with an MSP, we've recently done an analysis of everything they sell and everything they don't sell, where their gaps are. In the industry, it's commonly called a white space analysis. Basically, where the gaps are is your white space. We did this analysis, and because I'd originally said, what do you sell? And we couldn't come up with an accurate picture, so we did the full white space analysis, and there were a lot more gaps than was expected. I was informed before the analysis was done that, of course, everybody had all the products, or most of the products, and then once the analysis was done, it appeared that there was, in fact, most customers were missing at least 2 or 3 items, product or service, that could be upsold to them. And so the process has started. And the really great thing now is that's become the process now. We've taken from the white space, we've looked at that. We've segmented the clients based on risk of how the messaging will land. And we've started by the MSP now contacting every single client to either increase their prices where price increases were needed, or sell them new products or services. And at this stage, 100% success rate.
This episode is sponsored by Sales Builder, where I work. I really wanted to tell you about us because I see so many MSP sales teams buried in admin instead of talking to customers and building relationships. We help you automate your sales process with standardized product catalogs and professional proposals. Our service matrix, or the white space module, that's the bit that shows you visually where the opportunities are in your customer base, from service gaps to upcoming renewals. Everything links directly with your PSA and, of course, your distributors. If you'd like to free up your sales team's time and spot more revenue opportunities, simply connect with me on LinkedIn or head to salesbuilder.com. Let's get back to it.
So in terms of the best ones that you've worked with, then, you've got good examples. When you think what good looks like, how are they sort of structuring their portfolios? Because how does a good portfolio in your mind look? You know, if you had a blank sheet of paper and an MSP example, how would you sort of structure that?
I wouldn't want anyone to be buying anything from anybody else, from my competitors. So if they're considering and going, I could buy voice services from somebody over here. And so they might be buying managed services from me as an MSP. And then they could buy security services from somebody else, and they could buy voice from another provider. We're finding that everybody's kind of dipping into all sorts of areas. What's to say that the security provider doesn't sell them a managed service and I just lose a client?
Are you seeing a trend at the moment of other types of companies moving into the managed services space?
Yes. Now, that's not happening with every type of company, and it's not happening with every company. But if you're not controlling the client, the stickier the client, the less likely they are to walk out the door. So now, I'm not saying you necessarily need to provide that security service if you don't have the scope, desire, capability to do it, but you need to control the relationship with the client. So, for example, you might have a partnership agreement with the security provider. You control that relationship with the client and outsource the security services. But the partnership is between you and the security provider rather than between your client and the security provider. So have a think about that. Partner for success, because the MSP industry is small. We should all work together, and you can't deliver everything.
I think that's a really important point, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's it. But like you say, it's owning the line of communication and the relationship there.
Your skill set is in knowing the client, knowing what they need, understanding their business, understanding the technology landscape, where it's going, and how you can support your client and advise your client to what comes next.
Yeah, that sounds like absolutely solid advice. Listen, I'd like to switch it up very slightly and talk about sales process for a second, because I know you've got extensive experience in the sales arena as well. So what does a bad sales process look like? You don't have to name names, but are there any particular MSPs that you work with where you've got in and you just thought, well, this is, less than ideal?
What does a bad sales process look like? When we say, very often I will go into an MSP or I will be chatting with somebody and I'll say something along the lines of, oh, how does your sales opportunity board look? And I'll just get a blank stare. This comes back to, what are you selling? The sales opportunity board they're not using in any format. So if they have a PSA, they're not using the opportunity board in their PSA. If they don't have a PSA, they're not using an opportunity management of any sort, even in a spreadsheet, to keep track of who they're selling to, what they're selling.
Why is that so important?
So if you think about this, I go out and I see a client today and have a great chat. A fabulous chat with the client. It's really good. Client says, do you know what? This is brilliant, Maria. Send me a proposal. And I send the proposal. And then I get really busy and I go off and I do a whole lot of other things, not keeping track of that in one central place and being able to report on that really easily means that it can get missed.
This is my favourite kind of advice, just nice and super simple and actionable. A centralised opportunity board. This reveals where deals stall and helps align the service capacity within your business for upcoming projects. That's really valuable. If your opportunities are scattered across multiple systems, consolidating those, however you do it, should definitely be a priority. You need to know what it is that's going to close and exactly when, and the whole team really should have a view on that.
The other thing that's really important with the opportunities board is knowing at what point are we losing momentum with the sale? At what point is there a delay in my sales cycle? If we can look at that, we can then start to say, what can we fix in our sales process? There's something's falling over. I mean, if you're looking at your existing clients, so we're not even looking at prospects at this point, we're looking at our existing clients. I'm going out to see my existing client and I want to talk to them about the fact that we're going to be putting their prices up. Or we talk to them about the fact that I really love to sell in this new security service we're selling. We start to go through the process. At what point are we getting stuck? Do I send them the proposal and then they sit on it for a while? We need to know, is it our pricing? Is it their decision making? Knowing where the delay is, we can increase our sales wins by knowing at what point our sales process is falling over.
Why do most MSPs get stuck with their sales process? Like, when you go into an MSP and you're looking to help them out, are there some commonalities there with sort of some quick wins that you know you're probably going to be able to make just from the experience that you have?
Where they're getting stuck. So most of them don't have their opportunities in one place. So if they have an opportunities board, I will often hear I'll say, right, show me your opportunities. And they go, okay, cool. So we've got some over here, and we've got some over here, and we've got some over here. And I go, you're one single pipeline of opportunities. And they go, oh yeah, we've got them in multiple locations, depending on what we're selling. So very often I'll see if it's an upgrade or a new piece of hardware for an existing client, it will sit in the PSA. But if it's a proposal for a new client, it'll sit in a CRM system or a quoting tool outside of the PSA. So it won't be in the same place, but it means that they're tracking things differently and they lose focus because they're not they're not focusing on the one spot. They're splitting their focus. So that automatically causes a problem.
How often should we be looking at that opportunities board, and who should be involved in that process in an ideal world, would you say?
There's a number of people who can actually get involved in looking at a sales opportunities board. It's not just used for sales. I mentioned earlier, would we send our engineer off on a training course to upskill them so we can deliver a certain new set of projects? What if our sales team got really enthusiastic and sold a whole lot of Azure projects and we only have one Azure engineer and they want to go on a long holiday? What if our pipeline shows that we're going to close all of those projects between now and the end of March? This becomes a problem. So that can impact the whole business. That doesn't just impact dollars in the bank, because that then impacts the clients and how they feel about us. And that's where we potentially lose clients because they have a poor experience. So the owner should be looking at this, even if they've got a sales manager who's managing all of this, that should be looked at and then shared with the service manager, with the project manager. We should be looking at filtering it out through the business.
Yeah, that's such an important resource for the whole team, isn't it? It's interesting to see it framed like that. In terms of other revenue opportunities, are there any other areas where MSPs potentially could be being more profitable, would you say, or generating more business, being more efficient with their existing customer base that you see as a kind of quick win?
Have you analysed whether you've raised your prices recently? Have you checked that price rise that came from a vendor recently or something along those lines actually got passed through? Because if you haven't, you're the one wearing the cost. We did an analysis with one of the MSPs we work with and found that they had missed doing a price rise for over a year and been wearing the quite hefty price rise from the vendor.
And is that just a case of not tracking when the costs are increasing, or is it just a case of knowing and not wanting to face it?
Usually it's not tracking. What we find is that 4 or 5 years ago, bundling was all the rage. We're going to bundle everything and we're going to sell everything as a bundle, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing with bundling. It makes it easy for our clients to understand. Here's how many dollars you're going to pay. So from a marketing perspective, absolutely, sell it as a bundle. But when we come to the agreements and our line items, we need to split it out, because the vendors might change their prices. Or if you're not based in the country that the vendor comes from, we've got fluctuations with exchange rates. Somebody has to wear it. And unfortunately, the MSP often ends up wearing it if they haven't written it into their agreement with their client. So that's an easy way that they can very quickly make themselves more profitable by assessing all their agreements.
So pricing is one of those topics, isn't it? Everyone's got an opinion on it and it normally varies. And even within the area of bundling, you can do that differently. You can throw everything into one bundle. You can have multiple bundles that work together. It's nice for the customer. It's definitely simple to understand. But what's really important from your perspective here is that you must maintain internal visibility on what the costs of the components in those bundles are. So take that a step further, build automatic price adjustment clauses into your contracts to protect against vendor increases and currency fluctuations. Make sure that you're not just inheriting any additional costs that might arise.
That's a lovely tip, isn't it? Because just that concept of making sure you've split out your bundle at the back end, I think that's critical, isn't it? Okay, Maria, so at this stage of the episode, we like to have a segment which we call Industry Manure. So this is all about industry advice that you personally think is kind of really a shit. Anything you'd like to dispel, what have you got to share with us?
There's lots. I work a lot in the cyber governance space, and so I hear a lot about cyber that isn't accurate. I'm not going to go into that tonight because so much of it is a mess, and I'd rather people didn't talk about cyber if they didn't understand it. But the one I actually want to talk about is sales, because we've been talking about sales tonight, and the myth that I'd like to dispel is you can only grow your business through new customer acquisition, and it's a load of rubbish. I had a stand-up argument at an industry event with a business development manager, and I have said that you can grow your business at a very rapid rate using account management strategies, and they have said you absolutely cannot. You have to use BDM strategies. So I'm calling it out. It's a load of rubbish.
I love that one. That couldn't have been any better for this podcast, really. So thank you very much for that. Excellent. Listen, we've also got another segment, which is our Pass the Pitchfork, which is basically a guest asks our other guest a question. And this is Juan Fernandez's question. So he was asking MSP 5.0. And we got no clarification around what that actually is, but just MSP 5.0, what does it look like?
I don't have my crystal ball, but I imagine that we are moving towards being advisors, less hands-on technology providers. The robots are going to come. The robots are going to take our jobs as technology solution providers. But they can't come for the advice. They can't come for the account management. They can't come for the human-to-human interaction where we work with the clients and we help them plan their business around the technology that can support and help grow their business and maintain their business and secure their business. That's where we come in. It's still problem solving. It's still using technology, still understanding the technology, but it's advising the clients.
Yeah, certainly. I think in the short to medium term, there'll always be that layer, won't there? Who knows where it's going in the future, as you say. Do you have a question for our next guest?
Yes, I do. I'd like to hear how the next guest thinks AI is going to impact sales, how it's going to impact salespeople, how it's going to impact the sales process. Is AI going to impact us as salespeople positively, negatively? Is it going to impact at all?
Oh, wow. You opened a massive can of worms there. Thank you for that one. Maria, thank you so much. You've given us loads of gold there, loads of tactical tips that we can implement in our businesses tomorrow. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for spending some time with us, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks, James.
So, sad times. That's all there is for this episode with Maria Armstrong. Thank you, Maria. Today's key takeaways. Document what you sell. Make sure you have a good handle on that. Understand your client motivations. Centralize that sales pipeline. So important. Really love that piece of advice. And review pricing to avoid absorbing any vendor increases. Maria debunked the myth that new customers are essential for growth. Proper account management can drive substantial revenue from your existing client base. Remember that. I'm James Steele, and this has been Harvest, helping you grow more revenue from the land you already own. Okay, that is it for this episode of Harvest. If you found this useful, all the links we mentioned are in the show notes. And of course, if you enjoyed it, please do leave us a review and share it with a friend, or even better, someone else in the industry who you know would get value from it. Until next time, happy harvesting.